Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. I'm Megan Sullivan from HHC, or Helping Hands Consortium. Today, we're pleased to share with you this Go, No-Go tool, which is designed to help organizations make structured, evidence-based decisions about whether to pursue new funding and partnership opportunities. It helps promote transparency, consistency, and teamwork in the decision-making process. Start with step 1, where you will answer yes or no questions around the must-haves for your organization. This will be your pre-screening step before you go on to consider anything else. Step 2 will allow you to look at the criteria around how well this opportunity fits with your organization's strategy, mission, and partnership goals. Step 3, you will look at your ability to implement this project, whether it's technical expertise, management capacity, staffing, relevant experience. Step 4 will dig deeper into the financial criteria. This step assesses whether the opportunity is financially realistic for your organization. Finally, on the Summary tab, you will see an automatic combination of the results of all steps, providing a clear go, conditional go, or no-go for this opportunity. This recommendation can help to support internal decision-making and management approval. If you want to use this tool as a team, we recommend that each team member completes their own scoring in a separate copy, consolidate the results, average the scores across all participants, and then discuss the scoring and rationale to ensure a balanced, consensus-based decision. Based on the scoring and the rationale, then you will have the automatic go or no-go decision. So let's go ahead and start looking at this tool more in depth. Step 1 is the most critical step. This is our pre-screening assessment. We use this step to check if we are eligible for the opportunity we're considering. These are the things we must have. If we answer no to any of these questions, then we won't continue to consider this opportunity because it will be too risky for us in one way or another. The first question is to check legal. That is, if the opportunity requires legal registration, do we have it? If it requires us to be legally registered and we are not, then we would mark no. We would also stop the assessment here. Same with tax status. If the opportunity requires us to show tax records, can we do that? For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to say yes. The second question is the opportunity within our geographic scope? Are we currently working in a country or region where the donor expects the project to be implemented? If not, do we have time and resources to begin operation before the expected start date? For the purpose of this exercise, again, we're going to say yes. Third question, does the proposal focus on our technical area of expertise? Is this an education project, but we only work on health? The time to start focusing on new technical areas should come long before we see a new call proposal. So for the sake of this exercise, we're going to say it's a great technical fit. The fourth question, do we have enough time to prepare a quality proposal? We can burn ourselves and our staff out by attempting to rush a proposal to meet an unrealistic deadline. Again, for the sake of this exercise, we're going to say yes. Finally, but perhaps most importantly, we need to confirm that we can reasonably keep our staff and our organization safe while operating this project. What that means will be different for different organizations and will be different for different proposals. But essentially, what we need to consider is, can we meet the safety and security challenges we might face if we're successful with winning this project? Briefly, I want to show you what happens if you answer no to one of these questions. So for the moment, I'm going to put a no here under safety and security. With that no in place, we can tab over to the Summary tab. This Summary tab then shows us that this opportunity is no-go'd because it fails the pre-screening criteria. However, again, for this opportunity, we want to show you the full tool, so we're going to say yes. Step 2, strategic fit and assessment. Step 2 helps us decide whether this opportunity makes sense for us strategically. This step helps us assess how well the opportunity aligns with our organization's mission, funding and partnership strategy, as well as our long-term vision. Enter a score for each criteria and add a brief comment where relevant. Each criteria can either receive a score from 1, little or no alignment, to 5, high or strong alignment. If the score is low, less than a 3, consider what mitigation steps you will take to make sure that the poor or low alignment does not have a negative impact. There are no right or wrong answers, but weak strategic fit is a warning sign that this opportunity may not be for us. First, does this opportunity align with our mission and values? Will it strengthen our core work or pull us away from it? Here we'll say it's very aligned, so we'll give ourselves a score of 5. Secondly, is this a donor we want to work with? Have we heard that they're often challenging or make unrealistic asks, or that they're very easy to work with and they have a lot of the same values we do? For the sake of this exercise, we're going to say we've heard that this donor is often delayed in its payments, so we're going to give a score of 2. But what we will do is note in our mitigation plan that we will ask for 3 months advance on signing. That will give us some buffer if this donor is delayed in payments like we've heard. Third, what is the partnership potential? Well, the donor might be challenging, but there are other organizations we'll be partnering with on this opportunity who we've been wanting to work with because we can learn from them or because they will make the work more successful. For this exercise, we'll pretend that there's a strong partner we've been wanting to work with, so we'll give it a score of 4. And we'll note that ABC.org is a partner. Fourth, does this help us build for the future? Will the benefits to us and our target beneficiaries be sustained beyond the life of the project? Is there potential for long-lasting positive impacts if we're able to win this work? For this exercise, we'll say we can see a strong potential and give it a score of 4. Step 3, capacity and resources. Step 3 focuses on whether we can manage this project well. Again, we'll be using a scale of 1 to 5, but in this case, a 1 will mean no or low confidence, while a 5 will mean yes and high confidence. Again, there is no right or wrong answer, but it's not winning a project, but delivering it that makes an organization successful. So the first question we'll look at is, do we have the necessary technical personnel? If this proposal requires a technical lead with 15 years of experience in maternal and child health, do we have that person on our team? If not, can we realistically engage them before we submit the proposal? For this exercise, we're going to say we do have someone with 15 years of experience, but they're already working part-time in another project. So we know we'll need to hire a deputy team lead to help manage the activities across both projects. So in this case, we'll give ourselves a score of 3. Second, do we have the management capacity needed to do what's required? For this example, we'll pretend that we're going to be working with a large number of beneficiaries, more than we ever had before. So we're going to need a new monitoring and evaluation learning platform, or MEL platform, so we can track everyone and give ourselves a 2 here. Since we know that we will need to have a mitigation plan, we'll put into place a note here that says new MEL platform. And we'll make sure that we include that in our budget. Along with technical expertise, we need to consider if we have enough staff to implement the project if we win. So we need to make sure that if we're running grant projects, we have enough grant staff. In this case, we'll say we have a strong team in place for what we're going to propose and give ourselves a 4. What about our past performance? Can we show how we've been successful in completing similar projects in the past? Or can we clearly demonstrate how our skills are applicable to this work? In this case, we will say we do, and we'll give ourselves a 5. Finally, what is the infrastructure in the place we plan to implement the project like? Maybe we're working in a conflict zone where roads and electricity are unreliable. In that case, we would give ourselves a 2, and we would think about how we will address that. For example, building in additional time into our timeline so we can work around delays we might face. Step 4, financial consideration. Even strong projects can harm an organization if the finances don't work. So on this tab, we're going to give scores of yes, partial, or no. If we're not sure about a question here, because the call for proposal is not clear, then we would mark those questions as partial and make a plan on how we would mitigate those challenges if they come up. The first question we're going to ask is, does the budget allow for full cost recovery? If in the call for proposal it mentions a budget ceiling, can we propose activities that are below that ceiling, or perhaps is there a cap on overhead that we would need to include in our budget? It's vital that an organization does not overextend themselves to win a project only to lose money in the end. In this case, we will say that we can recover all of our costs. Second, do we know what the cash flow will be like for this project? If we are a small organization, we may not be able to cover costs on our own and wait for payment after an activity. In this example, we know we will need to ask for an advance, so we will say partial here and note that in the mitigation plan. Third, does this call for proposal mention if we need to cover cost share or provide any in-kind donations? If so, are they realistic given the scope and size of the project? For this example, we will say that the donor does ask for cost share, but it's realistic and something we can do without putting ourselves in financial risk. Finally, can we meet all of the audit and financial reporting requirements that this project will have? Does the donor, for example, require a yearly audit, but that is not something that we have within our means to cover on our own? In that case, we would put partial, but would make a note that we need to include those costs as part of our budget. With that last score entered, it's now time to see if this is a go, a partial go, or a no-go on our summary tab. So here we can see we have a very clear go recommendation for this opportunity. We would also enter in the country and location, any notes, and any partners like ABC.org that we plan to work with. If we received a conditional go here, a score of 3 to 3.49, we would put some additional notes and rationale into this box here to let us know how we are going to manage any risk or as we gather more information. A no-go or failing the pre-screening qualifications would also show up here on this tab. So thank you so much for walking through this tool from HHC with me today. It's been my pleasure to give you a little bit more information and empower the organization you are working with.